G'day everyone, welcome to this presentation titled Insights into Victoria's Murray Cod Fishery. This is a preliminary results summary which I'm presenting on behalf of a whole heap of partners listed there on the screen. Results from a survey that we did in summer of 22-23 regarding our Murray Cod fishery here in Victoria. Before I go any further, I do want to thank Darren Weeder for letting me use his picture as a background. I thought it was quite appropriate. A beautiful Murray Cod caught at Lake Eildon here in Victoria. So what I'm going to walk you through here is the context to why we did the survey and how we did the survey, and then the results, including the insights that we get from the survey into our fishery, the satisfaction that anglers have from our Murray Cod fishery, how handling practices are going, the perceptions that they've got, and then I'll walk you through the key messages at the end. If you're watching this video, you may have questions, comments, feel free to get in touch with me at any stage if you'd like to discuss further, and there'll be more to come in this space. This is quite data heavy. There are lots of graphs and figures, so I've tried to bring in lots of pictures of Murray Cod as well to try and keep it really interesting and engaging. So here we go. So the background to this survey, Murray Cod, as you're aware, are probably our most iconic native fish species. Whenever we do surveys of anglers, Murray Cod feature in the top 2 or 3, sometimes number 1, really regularly. And I think the love for Murray Cod is strong and probably growing. There's heaps of effort that has gone into recovering Murray Cod stocks over the last 3, 4, 5 decades. And we've done lots of things like stocking, we've got changing regulations, we've banned set lines, we've taken out drum nets, we've got a slot limit in place, bag and size limits and so forth. Lots of habitat restoration have gone on, and there's changing angler behaviour through handling in particular, but also catch and release. So all of these things have happened, and I think it's important that we check to see how we're going from time to time. In early 2023, Victoria, Melbourne hosted the World Recreational Fishing Conference with world-leading recreational fishing experts from around the world. People like Andy Chuck, who's featured in the bottom right-hand corner there. And with these experts coming over to Victoria, we thought this is a great opportunity to collaborate with them and perhaps do a social survey to better understand recreational fisher views on our Murray Cod fishery. We know these surveys happen around the world for other species, so let's collaborate with the world's best and see what we can learn about our Murray Cod. So to introduce the survey team to you, first of all, the international team that worked with us on this is really an all-star cast, I'd say. These are some of the best people in the world that work on recreational fisheries. So Dr. Andy Chuck and Sasha Chuck from Keep Fish Wet and the University of Massachusetts have done heaps of work in this space on species like bonefish and tarpon and GTs and lots of different species. Dr. Lucas Griffin down there in the middle, Stephen Cook from Carleton University, one of the world's best, and Megan Guckian, a social scientist. All of these people came together to work with us on this Murray Cod survey. And then we worked with the internationals and our Murray Cod fishers, including people like Robbie Alexander and Ben Scullen and Shay Bloom and Cara Cummings, Rob Lotes, and then within the VFA, because we all love our cod fishing as well, to help inform this survey. And using that team of internationals and locals, we put together a survey of Murray Cod fishers, which consisted of 32 questions, which were hosted online on a platform called Qualtrics. And with the international expertise, we really tried to make sure that this survey was constructed to maximise the flow. It was easy to do, it reduced any biases and gave us a really objective understanding of rec fisher satisfactions and perceptions with the Murray Cod fishery. That was the aim. So the best piece of work we could to understand what's going on. We put the survey out for about 7 or 8 weeks between December and January over summer. We emailed it to over 230,000 Victorian licence holders, and we promoted it really heavily through social media, including through the use of weekly prize draws. So we gave away $250 tackle vouchers, and you can see some of the winners there in the bottom right-hand corner. And then we promoted those to try and get more people to fill it in. So it was a big effort to share it to try and get some really good participation. So let's have a look at the results. The high-level results in terms of insights into our fishery. There's another beautiful Lake Eildon Murray cod caught by John Cahill, a really big fish. So we had 6,500 legitimate surveys completed. I'm calling these legitimate surveys because we filtered out those surveys which you could see were created by bots, or they were people who did the survey multiple times to try and get more prize draws in to win a prize. We made sure that they could only do it once. So 6,500 people filled in the survey. And the first question we asked them was, did they fish for Murray cod in the last 12 months? If they said yes, they stayed in the survey. If they said no, we thanked them for their time and they're basically booted out. So then we had 4,500 people who confirmed that they were Murray cod fishers and they'd fished in the last 12 months. This is the sample that we use for all of the results that you'll see onwards from this point. This is the largest survey of Murray cod fishers to date. So I think this is really powerful. It is larger than anything that we've done on Murray cod in the past. So the biggest creel surveys have previously sort of got, 12 to 1,500 anglers. The last social survey that was done by VRFish around the Cod Nationals had about 2,000. So we've got double that, 4,500, the largest. I think that makes this really powerful and something worth looking at. So who filled in the survey? Well, in terms of participants, we had 85% of those were men and 14% female. There was also 1% other there, and I had a look at the other, and they were people who said, I identify as a cod. So I left them there as other. In terms of this split, I think it's pretty close. Most of our surveys show 80 to 90% men, 10 to 20% women, and more women coming into the fishery. So I think that's quite accurate. In terms of their residents, 85% were from Victoria. So it gives us a really good feel for Victorian Murray cod fishers. We did have around 15% that came from South Australia, New South or Queensland, but largely Victorian. The ages of people who filled in the survey was quite a good spread. And, most people were between 25 and sort of 65, but a range of different ages there. In terms of their primary location, it was about a 50-50 split between bank fishers and boat fishers, noting some people fish both, but we asked them to pick what do they mainly do. And so it's about half-half. And similarly, in terms of their primary method, bait, lure, fly, of course, many Murray cod anglers do several of these, but we said if they could pick their primary method, what would it be? And around about half said they fish bait, around half said they fish lures, and around 1% said they fished fly. So that gives you an idea of the sort of the demographics of our Murray cod population, or at least that filled in the survey. In terms of angler avidity, we know that all anglers aren't the same, and avidity is sort of really how keen you are as a Murray cod angler or as a fisher. And this is really important to look at in terms of fishery surveys because, a casual angler is very different from someone who's fishing all the time. So to split these out gives us a deeper insight, I guess, into our fishery. So in this survey, we asked anglers to categorize themselves into 4 different types of anglers. So first of all, we're casual anglers, and this is where fishing's not their most important leisure activity, and they go very occasionally. So this might be your average family fisher, but they do lots of other activities. And, once or twice a year, they might go fishing. The next step up is someone who's an active fisher. So they go fishing a little bit more regularly. They use slightly more sophisticated tackle, but they're not avid. They're not going all the time. They're just going more regularly than casual, if that makes sense. The next step up from that is an advanced fisher. So this is someone where fishing is their most important activity, but they might do other things, and they might have lots of friends who also go fishing. They may also target a particular species like cod or something else and work through it that way. And then the highest avidity is someone who's regarded as committed. So this is where fishing is the center of their life. Their social life revolves around fishing. Their friends are all fishers. They use really high quality gear, and they always target a particular species. A really simple way to think about this is the many big method sort of category. So casual fishers really just want to catch any fish or any cod. They just want to catch one. Active fishers want to catch many fish or many cod. Advanced fishers really, they're beyond catching many fish. They really want to catch big cod. And committed fishers are really into the method or the location. So they might want to catch cod on fly or cod in a certain spot like Rocklands or somewhere like that. They're really committed. So when we asked people to split themselves into these sort of groups, we had 18% of fishers said they were casual, 39% said they were active and they like to target many fish, 31% said they like to target big fish, and 12% said they were committed and they really wanted to target method fish. So what it tells us is most people are sort of in this category of more than casual, but not fully committed. So they love going fishing pretty regularly. And when we ask them their pre and post-COVID fishing, so prior to COVID, most people were fishing sort of 2 to 5 times and sometimes more regularly. Post-COVID, we see that there's actually a bit of a contraction in terms of more people are fishing more often, but they're not fishing as committed as they used to be. So what this really all boils down to, I think, is we've got more people fishing for Murray cod in an active and advanced way, chasing many fish and big fish, but maybe less people that are those species specialists, because there's lots of things you can do in life, and less casual people who don't do it all that often. So the love for cod is strong. There's lots of people getting right into it, plus doing lots of other things in life. So moving on to some of the other questions that we asked, the total number of Murray cod landed per year, we asked all people in this survey, and the largest or the highest frequency of numbers of cod were between 2 and 10 fish landed per year. So over 50% of people who filled in this survey, most people who filled in this survey said they catch between 2 and 10 Murray cod per year. Around 10% caught less than one cod per year. And then the other sort of 40% caught beyond that. There were some people that filled this survey and that sort of said they caught, thousands of cod per year. I put them into the 500 plus category. I don't know how real that is. Most people, 2 to 10 cod. When we asked people what percentage of harvestable Murray cod did they keep, and harvestable is between the slot of 55 and 75 centimetres, over 50% of anglers said they don't keep any of those fish in that harvestable slot. About 17% said they take very few, so 10% of fish, so maybe 1 in 10. Some people said they took a few more fish, so about 30%, and just 3% said they took all fish in that slot. So what that tells us is that Murray cod harvest still remains quite low, catch and release is high, but for some people, harvest is still important, okay? It's still part of the fishing experience for some people. And in terms of a fisheries perspective, we think that's a personal choice. And if you choose to take a fish within the slot and it's within the regulations, we think that's fine. But as you can see, most people are not doing that. They're catching and releasing their fish. Moving on to motivations to go Murray cod fishing. This was really interesting. What this came out as really clearly is non-catch related motivations were by far greater than catch related motivations. So over 70% of people said to be outdoors was their main motivation for going Murray cod fishing. To relax was really high, and to be with friends and family. In terms of actually catching a Murray cod, things like for sport, for food, for competition or fishing club activities, much lower in the priority list in terms of motivations. So this tells us the primary motivations for anglers are actually related to those health and well-being benefits of fishing in general. People want to get outdoors, experience nature, connect with their friends and family, and catching a fish is a bit of a bonus for a lot of people. You know, it's about getting out there, which is really why we go fishing. So moving on to satisfaction, there's that great picture of Darren with a beautiful Lake Eildon Murray cod, very fat. So we asked anglers, how satisfied are they in general with Murray cod fishing in Victoria? We found that 68% of anglers said that they were satisfied, somewhat satisfied or extremely satisfied. Around about 20% couldn't really tell us either way. They were neither satisfied or dissatisfied. And about 12% said they were dissatisfied, extremely or somewhat dissatisfied. So if we had 10 Murray cod fishers, around about 7 were very happy. 2 of them couldn't tell us either way. 1 of them was unhappy. This suggests to us that satisfaction is pretty high in our Murray cod fishery. And this is a good result in terms of fisheries. We've got lots of different anglers out there, lots of different avidity levels, come from different backgrounds, but generally around 70% are satisfied with what they're seeing. So that's a good thing. In terms of rating Murray cod fishing over time, we asked people in the time that they'd been fishing for Murray cod, how would they rate their fishing? And we asked this over decades that they'd fished. So from 1970 till today. So if someone didn't fish, for instance, I didn't fish in the 70s, I didn't answer this part of the question. I only fish from when I know I fish from. I answered that. So to give you an idea what I'm talking about, we asked people in the 1970s, how would they rate their Murray cod fishing? And you can see here that around 51% rated it good or very good. You can see about 25% rated it fair, around about 12% rated it poor, and about 8% rated it very poor. And then we go through the decades. Of those people that fished in the 1970s, we can see we had 1,710 people fill that in. So it's still nearly a couple of thousand people said that they'd fished in the 70s. 51% said it was good or better. If we now move to the 80s, using that same rating scoring system, we can see around about 47% rated the 1980s as good or very good, and slightly more people filled in and said they fished the 80s. If we move to the 90s, 49% said it was good or very good, and over 2,000 anglers said they fished this period and remember that. In the 2000s, from 2000 to 2009, 57% said it was good or very good, and nearly 2,700 anglers filled this in. So you can see we're starting to see a bit of a trend in increasing rating over the decades. If we move to the 2010s, 68% said it was good or very good, and 3,500 anglers fished in this time. And then the most recent period, from 2020 to present, 69% said it was good or very good. And we had nearly 4,000 anglers fill that in. So to me, there's a really clear trend from, the 70s and the 80s, Murray cod anglers are rating fishing as getting better right through till today. And we've gone from about 50% saying it was good to about 70% saying it was good. So there's a really clear trend there. And some people might look at that and say, well, you could say some of that is because we're seeing more Murray cod on social media popping up. We're hearing people tell us that. Also, technology is coming in, like Livescope, which is helping more anglers catch Murray cod. And that could all be true. But the thing that gives me confidence that we're seeing an improvement in Murray cod fishing and Murray cod stocks is our electrofishing and our fish population surveys show the same trend. And you can see that in that figure there, that from the sort of 80s, 90s and onwards, we do see this upward trajectory in the number of fish in the water. And now using the data that we see in the survey, we can see anglers are also rating their fishing as getting better. So that to me suggests that those things that we're doing to improve cod stocks, like stocking, habitat restoration, handling, and the regulations, are really making a difference. And we are seeing Murray cod populations and fishing improve. They're improving over time. And now we've got some really good data to show that. So that's something to be really excited about, I think. We are seeing Murray cod recovery, both in the water and in terms of the fishing experience. So moving on to handling, and this is a beautiful picture that you've probably seen many times, Mark Ainsworth with another Lake Eildon cod. I love the colours on it though, and the way he's holding it in the water, really pretty. So first of all, 91% of anglers said proper handling practices are very or extremely important. So anglers agree that, handling is really important for us to do the right thing. If you choose to let it go, make sure you take care of it. Nearly everyone is on board that. And when we asked anglers over the last 5 years, do they think Murray cod anglers are incorporating proper handling practices? Most people think this is happening increasingly. So a good amount was the highest there. The people are saying we are incorporating proper handling practices a good amount or better. So there's a general feeling there that Murray cod handling is important and it's improving. So that's a good thing. In terms of delving into the handling practices, we asked anglers what practices they use. And we found that over 50% of anglers were using these practices, which we know are considered in the best practice for Murray cod. So releasing fish as quickly as possible, 86% of anglers said they do this. Supporting the body of Murray cod, 69% of anglers said they do this. Wetting your hands, 59%. Using de-hooking tools, 51%. Less than 50% of anglers said they were using these handling practices, which are typically recognised as the right things to do. So using a rubber knotless net, minimising the fight time, holding fish over the water, using circle hooks rather than J hooks, using gloves, crimping the barb, keeping fish in the water, using live wells. People are using this, but they're doing it less. So this tells us that handling practices are being used, but I think there's some significant opportunities for improvement here. So this is where I think we can get even better with the Care for Cod campaign. Speaking of Care for Cod, so Care for Cod was a campaign that we brought in 2018. This was all about improving the release of Murray cod. It had 4 steps that you can see listed there. And we communicated the Care for Cod campaign through videos, through posters, through stickers. It went out through social media, and even in fishing magazines like AFN, Freshwater Fishing, every cod article had a Care for Cod logo on it, and still does today. So it's pretty widely spread in 2018, about 5 years ago. We wanted to know what sort of impact we might have had with the Care for Cod campaign. When we asked anglers about it, 51% of those people who filled in the survey were aware of the campaign. 52% said the campaign influenced all or some of their handling practices. So that's a good thing. So people change their behaviour a little bit based on seeing the Care for Cod campaign. And of those people who are aware of it, 82% said they communicated those better handling practices with other anglers, friends, family, and children. So that's really powerful. We can see there that the Care for Cod campaign is making a difference. So thank you for sharing this story of how we can take care of our Murray cod. It is making a difference. People like Sam Consola and Bailey Thomas through the Murray cod fishing page, and many of you out there, spreading the word. It is making a difference and getting out there to other people. There are further improvements in handling that we can make to the Care for Cod campaign, and this will be informed by a deeper analysis from the experts involved in this survey. So the people, as I mentioned, so Andy Danielchuk and Sasha and Stephen Cook, through Keep Fish Wet, a US nonprofit organisation aimed at improving the release of all fish. They do this for all sorts of species around the world, and they're going to look at this data in detail. They're also going to look at some of the other questions that we asked in terms of what anglers think are the key factors for fish survival, what handling practices do people find challenging, and what improvements did you suggest we could make for the Care for Cod campaign. So stay tuned for more information here. I think we'll have an extension of Care for Cod, and we'll be able to go a step further because it's clearly working. It's helping bring cod back, and it's helping improving your fishing. So that's a really good thing. So moving on to the last set of results now, this is about perceptions and asking a few other queries that we had about our Murray cod fishery. And there's a beautiful cod caught by April Vokey with the sunset in the background, a really pretty photo. So first of all, Livescope. So Livescope, active target, active sonar, forward-facing sonar, you might call it. This is a new technological phenomenon in our Murray cod fishery. This is a technological leap, I would describe it. And it's subject to a lot of discussion at the moment here in our Murray cod fishery, but also around the world. So first of all, we wanted to know how many people are actually using it. So we asked, do you use Livescope in your Murray cod fishing? We had a bit of a mixed bag in terms of responses. In terms of people who said they use it, if they used it always, often, or sometimes, combining all of that was about 13% of anglers said they use it pretty regularly. So that's pretty high. We'd expect more people who filled in the survey would have used it because avid anglers fill in more surveys, but I think that suggests it's growing. The people who don't use it were really interesting. So there was about 27% said they've never used it, but they would if they had the opportunity. Just under 50% said, no, they don't use it and they're not interested in using it. So Livescope isn't for everyone. And then 10% said they don't use it because they don't agree with it. So to me, this suggests that Livescope use is growing, but not everyone is into it yet. Okay. The next part of this question we asked was their perception of Livescope. Do you believe the use of Livescope provides greater catch rates? And this is the context of some of this discussion. Internationally, people are talking about, should it be banned? I don't know of any jurisdictions that have banned it, but certainly in some tournaments, it's being restricted. When we ask people, do they believe it provides greater catch rates? It was a real mixed bunch. 44% said they were unsure. Around 35% said yes, and then there was some no and some indifferent. So it's probably pretty mixed, and I think that's a function of not everyone's using it, so they might not quite understand it yet. But those people who are using it, and I've been fortunate enough to go out with an avid Murray cod fisher and see it in use, know that it doesn't guarantee you fish. It does help you actively target them, but it doesn't make them bite, so to speak. And there's been some really interesting social media posts discussing it. And certainly it appears that it changes your Murray cod fishing experience. It's a huge technological leap and it's helping some people catch more fish. We have no plans to ban it in Victoria, but we are really interested to see how it goes. And if people are catching more fish, that's a really good thing. We want people to enjoy their fishing. So Livescope is divisive and it's changing the cod fishing experience, but not everyone's into it just yet. We asked people where do they mainly get their information for Murray cod fishing, and they could choose multiple options here. This is a real mixed bag, ranging right across the spectrum of communication, but word of mouth was the most powerful and most popular. So what this suggests to us is what you share with your mates and fishing friends is really powerful. So if you care about cod and the handling of Murray cod, sharing that information with your mates can make a difference. But you can see YouTube, Facebook, television shows, fishing magazines, other social media and fishing clubs, all are places where Murray cod fishers get their information. And there's a variety of sources for that, which we're aware of. We asked anglers what impacts Murray cod. And of course, there are a whole heap of things which do, but in order to score them, we scored them based on what percentage of people said a good amount, a lot, or a great deal of this impacts Murray cod. And the number one in the ranking was black water. And partly the reason I think it came out as number one is we did this survey in December, January. We had some terrible black water fish kills in New South Wales in October, November last year. So black water was high on anglers' minds. But some of the other things which were of concern to anglers, carp were very high and similar. We were seeing a big abundance of carp in the system in a positive way. Fishing regulations can have a positive impact on Murray cod populations. I think that's what anglers are referring to there. You can see drought, fish handling, land use practices, and so on. So Murray cod fishers are concerned with lots of different things, but blackwater and carp are high on the concern list, at least in the last 6 months. And then conversely, we asked anglers, what's most important to managing Murray cod? We gave them a whole heap of different things which we currently do in management. And we asked them, how important or unimportant do you believe each of the following of these are to improving the Murray cod fishery? And when we considered the percentages of those that said were very important or extremely important, the number one ranked fishery intervention was fish stocking at 84%, but not far behind were things like fishing regulations, carp reduction, fisheries compliance, habitat enhancement, access, and so forth. So this I find really encouraging. In Victoria, these are all things that we're doing already, really. So, fish stocking, we're stocking 2.8 million Murray cod. We've got really good regulations in terms of the slot limit, bag and size limits, and so forth. There are some carp reduction programs occurring in certain places. We've got excellent fishery compliance from our fisheries officers, and there's a heap of effort going into habitat enhancement and new commitments to do more habitat enhancement there. So this tells me that Murray cod fishers support current management efforts. Right, that's a lot of information. Let me summarize it for you with some key messages. What I think this tells us is Murray cod fishers are really diverse, but they are passionate and they care about Murray cod. To have 4,500 Murray cod fishers spare their time and tell us what they think means a lot. And then really clearly from the responses, you can see the passion and the care. The love for Murray cod is strong. For some people, it's almost spiritual part of them. So that's really encouraging. Murray cod are really popular and really loved. Satisfaction with Murray cod fishing is really high, and fishing has improved over time. The motivation for most anglers is actually not about catching cod. It's about the health and well-being benefits of cod fishing, getting out in nature, spending time with friends and family, reconnecting. Those things are high, and catching a cod is sort of a bonus, which is really interesting. Catch and release remains really high in the Murray cod fishery, but for a small proportion, harvest is really important to them and still part of their fishing experience. And if it's in the regulations within that, we think that's okay, that's fine. Livescope use is growing, but not everyone is into it yet. Cod fishers have concerns about blackwater and carp, but they support the management efforts, which align pretty well with the things that we're doing right now. And cod fishers get their information from a variety of sources, but word of mouth is really powerful. So sharing your thoughts with your mates can have a big influence, especially in regards to cod handling. Handling is considered important and it is improving. The Care for Cod campaign, which is pictured there, is making a difference. Handling practices are being used, but there is opportunity to do more. And there'll be more to come in this space, and probably through a Care for Cod Phase 2 program, when we inform that with some feedback from the internationals based on what happens around the world. And you could see those areas there that we could probably make some improvements. So overall, I want to thank you so much for listening to this presentation, for completing the survey, and for handling cod well. It's really clear that there's a lot of love and passion for Murray cod out there, and that's really great to see our native fish being loved so much. I think we've got much to look forward to as we continue to recover cod populations and create great fisheries. Feel free to email me or get in contact if you've got questions or comments, or if you've got some ideas on how we can share this information with more Murray cod fishers. And thanks so much for listening.